why don't we read from another section of Roar of the Ganges? In this book, we've been following the life of Mark, who has recently become Swami Tadatmananda, the book's author. He had renounced his worldly identity and taken on a spiritual one as a renunciate who dedicates their lives now to spiritual liberation. Last time, we read a short story about waves in the ocean, and there was this girl wave that was afraid of crashing onto the shore and dying. But a wise old wave reminded that girl wave that we are all made of water, and although a wave may come to die, your essential nature as that water remains unchanged. This analogy was given to Richard, who was a British student of this ashram, who had asked Swami Dayananda, the guru, what is the difference between God and the absolute nature of reality, of Ishvara and Brahman. "That's a really great story," Richard exclaimed. "It's a traditional story," Swami Dayananda replied, "but I have taken many liberties with it to bring out some points. You have probably guessed that the wise old wave had traveled all the way from the Indian Ocean." Unrestrained laughter broke out among all of us gathered for satsang. Then, Swami Dayananda explained, "The ocean represents Ishvara, the creator, sustainer, and destroyer of the universe." And thank you, Sky Guardian. I did forget to minimize the question of the day. Maybe listeners to this section will also like to think about the answer to such a question. The ocean represents Ishvara, the creator, sustainer, and destroyer of the universe. A wave is born of the ocean, sustained by the ocean, and returns to the ocean. In the same way, we are born of Ishvara, since he is the material of which everything is made. We are sustained by Ishvara, since he is the intelligence pervading the universe as the laws of nature, the law of cause and effect, and the laws of karma. And finally, we will return to Ishvara when this cycle of creation comes to an end and the universe becomes unmanifest. All waves exist within the ocean and are non-separate from the ocean. From their perspective, the ocean is all-pervasive. In this way, Ishvara is all-pervasive. Everything that exists, sentient and insentient, including you and me, is non-separate from Ishvara. All this is true, and yet there is another point of view, a more profound truth. Ocean and waves are just forms of water, but those forms are impermanent and constantly changing, and both ocean and waves are utterly dependent on water for their existence. Finally speaking, ocean and waves are nothing but water. Water is what truly exists. Ocean and waves only appear to exist. Vedanta and modern physics agree here on one very important point, The world in which we live is not as real as it seems. Everything is made of buzzing particles and vibrating energy. All that appears to us in the world can be very deceptive. Take this cloth for existence, he said, holding the orange fabric of his dhoti. This cloth is made of thread. If I were to unravel it, the cloth would be gone and only the thread would remain. Cloth is merely a form of thread, but forms are not things. They are not substances. In fact, forms are nothing but ideas, concepts. Thread, on the other hand, exists as a tangible thing. So instead of calling this cloth, it would be more accurate to say that it is a form of thread. In fact, it is nothing but thread. But then, these threads themselves are made of fibers. Thread is a form of fibers. Fibers are the content of thread. But then fibers are made of something else. Cells, I suppose. So, fibers are a form of cells, but those cells are made of molecules, and molecules are made of atoms, and atoms are made of particles, and particles are made of something else. You can understand that such a process of division has no end. Every form can be reduced further, and every form depends on something else for its existence. Swami Dayananda explained that the world we perceive is a world of forms, a world of ideas. Yet there must be some kind of reality underlying the world of forms, because no form can exist without some kind of substance. World cannot exist without a fundamental reality whose existence is independent of the world. That reality is called Brahman. He continued, "Let us return to the story now. A wave is merely a form of water. It is really nothing but water. And the ocean, too, is a form of water. It is nothing but water. Therefore, water is the truth of both wave and ocean. Water is the underlying reality because of which they both exist. And in the same way, Brahman is the truth of everything. It is the underlying reality for the universe and for Ishvara, the creator, sustainer, and destroyer of the universe." Satsang soon came to an end. Swami Dayananda disappeared into his cottage to prepare to leave for New Delhi. I saw Vijay sit down on a nearby bench, and I joined him. He spoke with his heavy accent. "Swamiji is saying that modern physics is the same thing as Vedanta, but I am not understanding what is modern physics." "It's not all that complex," I assured him. "The teachings of modern physics and Vedanta are very different, but they overlap in one important area. Both show how the physical world is not as real as it seems to be. Both show how the world we perceive is only an appearance, a manifestation of an underlying reality." I used the bench we sat on as an example, explaining, "This bench is made of solid wood. But how solid is this wood? Wood is made of atoms, and according to physics, Each atom consists of a tiny nucleus of protons and neutrons with a number of even smaller electrons buzzing around it. And between the nucleus and the electrons, there is a lot of empty space. Each atom is 99.999% empty space. Therefore, the bench we're sitting on is 99.999% empty space. That is amazing to me, Vijay remarked. Then even the ground beneath our feet is being mostly empty space. I agreed, adding, nothing in the world is as real as it seems. Even time and space are not absolutely real. That is what Einstein discovered 50 years ago. Now closer to 100. Vijay asked, are scientists finding what is inside electrons and particles? Yes, I answered. They continue to reduce particles to still smaller particles. Their theories and experiments become more and more complex, but they don't seem to arrive at a final truth. The deeper they inquire, the more layers of complexity they uncover. I don't think they will ever discover a basic building block for the universe. I am laughing at Chrissy, who is complimenting me as I read this, but I have to remind you that these words come from this book. I will pass on your compliments to the chef, to the one who has cooked up this meal for you. This meal of spiritual nutrition. They can never be finding it, Vijay declared, because what they are seeking is Brahman. They can never be discovering Brahman through scientific experiments and theories. Upanishads teach that Brahman is understood only through negation. Neti neti. Not this, not this. You must first be dismissing the reality of all forms by... I just turned the page. Neti neti. Not this, not this. Then, only can you be discovering Brahman, the underlying reality of every form. Maybe, I suggested, science is doing the negation. As it explores the universe, it shows how everything we encounter is not what it seems, not absolutely real. Science dismisses the reality of everything it examines by reducing it to something else. That may be so, Vijay replied, but science can never be discovering Brahman because Brahman is not some worldly thing. The Taittiriya Upanishad says that Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. It is Satyam, the underlying reality. It is Jnanam, pure consciousness. And it is Anantam, limitless. When you are negating all forms, what is finally remaining is pure consciousness. The consciousness of the person who is doing the negating. Only in that consciousness can Brahman be discovered. Vijay observed, I am thinking the scientists' search to be very ironic. They are looking for the underlying reality, but they are looking in the wrong places. Brahman is only being discovered inside, within themselves, in their own consciousness. If a scientist is looking through microscopes to seek that reality, he will be searching for years and years. He will never be finding what he is looking for because he is actually looking for himself. And we'll pause our reading there for now. I love physics. Always happy when I hear the overlap between physics and spirituality. It reminds me of my own experience with physics and coming to know that many of the forefathers of modern physics, like Niels Bohr, Erwin Schrödinger, Max Planck, and many others, Robert Oppenheimer, they all had a deep appreciation for the Upanishads, Vedanta, or the Bhagavad Gita. There are many lovely quotes from them. So I think it is no coincidence that modern physics does have such an overlap with spirituality, when such physicists had a spiritual side. Mind you, they took their work very seriously, but they still had a curiosity for other perspectives. And they made great discoveries. Now, I thank you to Tatvamasi for your quintet of roses you sent a few minutes ago.